Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this press conference. As you all know, this is certainly a challenging time to try and balance a budget. We're in the midst of raging fires and record foreclosures, and we have a state that has to keep running and has to keep from running out of cash. The Democrats, the governor, and I believe most of the Republicans know that we can't solve this budget crisis through cuts alone. And in fact, we have cut. We've cut more than $7 billion this year, and most recently, you know, we made several $billion of cuts in January. So if we look at what the cuts are, and I asked my staff actually if they would try to quantify $5 million in cuts, what this means is 100,000 kids would be kicked out of special education, 5,000 cops would be taken off the beat, and 54,000 prisoners would be let out of jail. We really can't do that. And what we have done, though, and what we can do, is we can come up with a responsible, compassionate, and specific budget that was passed by the conference committee last night. In every poll we've seen, in every conversation that we've had, Californians are telling us not to decimate education, don't shred the safety net, don't close parks, and provide health care, and don't close clinics. The straight truth is the only way to do that is to raise revenue. And to solve the budget deficit, we can do that through closing tax loopholes and rolling back overly generous tax breaks that were given to big corporations and the wealthiest Californians, and rolling them back to levels that were done in former Republican governors. The budget approved by the conference committee last night honors our commitment to education, cuts out-of-control prison costs by implementing badly needed reforms, and keeps health care in reach for the most vulnerable Californians. In the budget that was passed by the conference committee last night, there are no gimmicks, there was no borrowing. I know many of my Republican colleagues point with pride to their no new tax pledge, but to me, rolling back tax breaks and closing loopholes and targeting tax cheats, frankly, shouldn't cause any of those pledge signers a moment's discomfort, especially when you consider that any increased state tax is deductible on federal returns. But more important, maybe instead of no taxes, legislators should pledge that they will not abandon firefighters by being afraid to take the heat on taxes. Maybe legislators should pledge that they won't forsake students and schools by ignoring the lesson of how education impacts the economy. And maybe legislators should pledge that they won't settle for a second-rate California just to get a 10-second soundbite. This budget is the result of lengthy and diligent work by the two budget committees and the conference committees. It is a responsible way to go. If we were to make the kind of cuts that I referenced earlier, we don't just lose those specific items. California loses a lot more. We lose our purpose, and frankly, we lose our way, and I don't believe it's the type of state that anyone would want to live in. It's not the type of California that we want to live in. We want to fight for our quality of life. Thank you.
I'm Don Perata. I'm the dove.
Am I the hawk?
First of all, I was reading this morning the press release of our colleagues, the Republicans, and they were citing all the problems that we're having: high gas prices, foreclosures, recession, and their solution was that they have a website. And so we are looking for something a little bit more than that. I've also been asked where my colleagues are. These are, you probably, even if you don't know the Assembly very well, these are all members of the Assembly, and all of my colleagues are in appropriations waiting for them to come back. So when you've been in the Senate, you don't confuse your priorities. Let me just add a couple of things to what Karen said. And the question is, what do we do now? A lot of work has gone into this budget, a lot of work. And I want to acknowledge particularly Denise Ducheney, who chaired the conference committee and did an incredible job of trying to keep everything in one place. Finally, one place, one time, last night, when the fruits of their labors for those many months really came into their final product. And some like it, some don't. I don't think any of us are happy. But I want to thank Denise. I want to thank all of our staff who worked on this. And even though we have the lead staff that keeps us on the straight and narrow. Everybody participated in this because this budget affects every discipline, every service in the state of California. So we're blessed, and I say that, Republicans and Democrats alike. Republicans didn't vote for this budget last night. It's not unusual, but it was not ritualistic. I think Senator Dutton made some comments to the effect that he's never found a harder working group and people that really tried to put principle above partisan purpose. And we hope that now, as we enter into the four-corner negotiations with the Republicans, that we are able to not start anew. This budget is not prologue. This budget is the basis upon which final decisions will be made. What we do know, and the governor's repeated consistently, that by August 1st, the state will have to go out and borrow money because we will be out of cash. Not August 10th, not August 21st, August 1st. So for the Republicans, that is the due date. That's the date that they have to now reconcile whatever it is that they are going to propose or suggest. And what we're saying to them is that we're going to get in there and do this together. And we're going to try to summon the courage and the nonpartisanship to raise California above partisanship, bickering, divisiveness, and solve the problem for the future. We don't want another temporary fix. You don't get temporarily pregnant. You don't die temporarily. With a budget, you have to fix it permanently. Resolve the issues that got us into the trouble that we're in today. Most of what we're dealing with is out of our control. Gas prices, foreclosures, layoffs, those are things that we have very little control of. What we do have some control over, however, is how we manage our affairs in light of what's going on globally and nationally. And that's what we ask our Republican colleagues to do. Now, we've set forward a set of taxes. And I haven't been shy about saying the word. I know you can call it if we get away with calling it a fee, I suppose we would. Taxes. But if you look at what we've asked Californians to do, we're asking those who have benefited the most to pay the most, who have made California what it is and should want to keep it the way it's been. Those very same people that worship at the altar of higher education, who want an unfettered market, who want to be able to move goods from concept to market. We're asking them to pay a little bit more. We're asking the most wealthy individual Californians to pay a little bit more, personally. Not only corporations, but personally. People are saying, well, look at the stock market. Most people don't have a direct relationship to the stock market, but people who invest in the stock market, the captains and captainettes of industry, they do. They should know better than anyone what the sacrifice we must make today means for the future, and that's what we're asking people to do. We have also said that if the blind, the disabled, the elderly don't get a cost of living increase, then we should forego as individual taxpayers the indexing for the next year, which simply is our COLA. It's the way in which we adjust to inflation so that we don't pay more than our fair share. They don't get it, we shouldn't get it either. We're sacrificing in this together. Everybody standing before you today is able-bodied and has been blessed by the opportunity to lead this great state of California. We must do what others cannot do for themselves. And that's not a calling to Democrats only. It's a calling to Democrats and Republicans. So in the next 7 to 10 days, we intend to have this discussion across the table saying, here's where we are, this is our benchmark. If you don't like these revenue increases, offer us other things. If there are things that you believe we can do to enhance California's opportunity to get out of the recession, let's do that. But saying no is not an option. We are elected to make decisions, and these are tough decisions. But as a French philosopher once said, not to decide is to decide. We can't stand still. We either advance or we retreat. And let me just close by saying that, we've heard so much about the greatest generation. Tom Brokaw's book has just unleashed all kinds of peons to people who are just talking about how wonderful America is thanks to the sacrifices of men and women who died defending the flag, who died for the symbol of the American way of life. And I can't help but thinking that, is it too much to ask in the memory of someone that died at Normandy to pay a nickel more for a latte? Is it too much to ask for someone who was killed at Pearl Harbor to take the wealth that they've been able to accumulate because of those who died in the Second World War and pay back now for what they were given so much then? I believe our Republican colleagues are equal to this challenge. I know we are. But we will not retreat from the decisions that have been made by this conference committee, and we will not retreat from what we believe it takes to make California's tomorrow as rosy as it has been in the past. Thank you.
That was the dove.
That's a dove. Tweet, 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 tweet.
A few questions?
Yeah, Don, you say you will not retreat. That at least seemingly sounds like a line in the sand, our way or the highway. I mean, what?
Well, let me just respond first by saying that we were asked to make cuts. We made cuts. We made, as I mentioned, $9 billion in cuts, and so we can't cut anymore. And so the bottom line is that we've proposed a revenue package. If our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are not satisfied with that revenue package, then they have to present an alternative. And frankly, what we're proposing is, really what there's been the national outcry for, which is a rollback of Bush's tax breaks. We're talking about a rollback of the tax breaks that were given in years when the economy was strong, where the economy is not strong now. So we need to roll that back. So line in the sand, yeah.
Don, line in the sand?
Yeah, on this budget defines what Democrats, who are in the majority, and we're in the majority by quite a bit, this is what we say we need to do, in our best judgment, to keep California on an even keel. We have given a lot. We gave back $6 billion in an ill-advised tax rebate to the motorists of California. We have a permanent deficit because of that. We are below the level of subsistence care to those who need it. So we're not going to go below that. We have lots of opportunity to negotiate. What revenues? If not these, what? The fact is, there is a hole there that's got to be filled. We tried to fill it with canceling some tax credits and benefits, and we're going to fill it with other taxes. It's up to the Republicans to work out with us what those will be. But we have said this is the blueprint for California to continue to advance its society, its objectives, and to build on what the governor said, this shining whatever it was on the sea.
Senator, can I follow on what you just said? You said if not these revenues, then what? We've got room for negotiation. There's still a lot of talk in this building that you could get revenues through a number of different borrowing plans. Borrowing money from here, there, everywhere else. Are you opposed to those kind of borrowing?
The strength of our proposal is that we are not including any borrowing. I mean, that has been the problem. That's one of the reasons why the deficit is so big now, as I know you well know, is the debt service that we're paying on borrowing that has been done over the last few years. And so our proposal does not include borrowing. Now, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle might propose borrowing. We are not.
But not just external borrowing, but internal
borrowing.
Pots of money that you could take it from now and pay it later. Are Democrats opposed to that?
Yeah. Look, we have 1A, which passed to help local governments be protected. I thought it was ill-advised. I thought local governments should take their cues from being up here. But if I was in local government, I'm sure I'd do the same thing they did. We passed Prop 42 to say that money should be retained and used for infrastructure needs. Now, that's what they're there for. To go back and borrow not only goes against a promise and a pledge that we made, even though we can say, yeah, there's a loophole where we can go and do it and then pay it back. But it is. We were decrying people who are using their credit card to pay their mortgage. What we're doing would be the same thing. borrowing and borrowing more to get further and further in debt. Now, that ain't the Democratic way, and I'm shocked to believe that it's a Republican way. We got to just face the fact that we can't borrow our way out of this problem. And if we can't, we ought to get out of the way and let somebody come in here that can do it.
If the car tax is the problem, Don, that you said it was, why not just repeal the car tax cut?
The short answer is that I believe that the governor would be hard-pressed to reinstate something that he made so much of a ado about when he canceled it. It's a political, practical reality. I would rather go where we need to go. And I think, frankly, that we need to ask people who have the best opportunity to pay the taxes to pay them. And so middle-class families are struggling. Let's talk about those that have benefited. There's still a lot of wealth in California. Even if some of it's burning, there's a lot of wealth.
You know, and I think it's too bad, too, what you were saying on the VLF, because I think if the public really understood where those dollars were going to, that people would have been willing to have not given back their $100 or $130 that they received. You know, one of the things that we're also calling for is an increase to the fees for CAL FIRE. And right now, I'm not sure our colleagues on the other side of the aisle support that, but here we are in the midst of fires, hundreds of fires up and down the state of California. We need to raise the fees for CAL FIRE so that the firefighters, one, are not in danger and we can adequately fight these fires. There was a question back here.
Oh, no, Ed. Yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
The increase of the top tax brackets to 10 or 11%, you seem to be characterizing that as somehow a tax credit that was bestowed in the past. It's an actual increase, isn't it? I mean, it's been increased in the past temporarily, but how do you not characterize that as just simply a straight tax increase?
Well, it's a rollback because there was a break that was given a few years ago when the economy was strong. And so we say the economy is weak now and we need to put that back.
But those brackets were never permanent, were they?
The tax break that was given was never permanent?
11% brackets.
You mean when Wilson
And when Wilson or Reagan did it, it was just simply temporary, isn't it? I mean,
as they are written in the budget right now,
Yeah.
they are not temporary, they're permanent.
yeah.
And you know what I believe that we will do as soon as the budget is signed, and you remember early on I mentioned the fact that I thought we needed a tax modernization plan. We need to look at what other states are doing. We need to look at how we bring a more consistent source of revenue into the states so that we're not dependent completely as we are now. And so we plan to do that, 5 of us together, as soon as the budget is signed.
And a follow-up question, if I could. But you say this is a permanent budget fix. Do you have an estimate for what happens in the out years? Will we have a budget gap?
We are taking care of the out years.
If this budget is enacted?
You know, what I would defer to, so we don't want to show off how bright we are, when you leave here and go and talk to the staff, they can take you through the out years, what they call fondly budget +1. But when I bring that up in bars and places that I attend, they don't much know what I'm talking about.
Don, you talked about the importance of August 1. Are you thinking at this time that regardless of what happens from here between now and then, before August 1, you want to put something up for a vote in your house?
Yeah, both houses. Yeah, well, we're going to work as hard as we can without prejudice in the next 7 to 10 days to try to arrive at a budget that the Republicans or some Republicans could vote for. But under any circumstances, we will put up a Democratic budget if we have to show to everyone that we have done our job, and now let those who are not able to support this budget give you a reason why.
Well, one thing that we don't want to do is just do a budget drill. And so I think also what Don and I believe is that we have to settle this. They have to come forward and show what the revenue is that they are supportive of so that we can have a vote on the budget, a real vote on the budget, where they deliver the votes and we have the budget signed well before August 1. That was the point.
Clearly that's the goal. But
yeah, that is the goal.
Is one way or the other you want to have a vote? He
Right.
said he wanted to have a vote by August 1, and
Right.
you and you as well.
Right.
Okay.
How are you guys going to jumpstart the conversation when you're saying 7 to 10 days right now? the Republicans are already saying, we don't like this plan.
We're going to jumpstart the conversation tomorrow. I mean, we have been meeting, And so now what we did last night in passing the budget on the conference committee, that jumpstarts it because we've said this is the line. We're not cutting anymore. This is how much revenue we need.
$20 wine to $70.
That's not true. We're not drinking any wine.
She's not drinking any wine.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you can be a little more specific on the areas you think there are for compromise on revenue, because as has been pointed out, the Republicans have said we don't want to raise taxes.
Well, I think the area where it can be compromised is, one, we've identified how much revenue is needed, okay? And so if they have loopholes, fees, or whatever that they want to propose, that can be compromised. We're presenting a package, and I believe, if I could speak for you, Don, that we would be open if they come and present some other alternative. So we need to see what that is.
They've been saying they don't want to present those alternatives of
No. They were saying that before. The conference committee is closed now. So now we have to do that. Yes.
Are you confident that you could even also get your moderate Democrats to vote and support this? Senator
Yes.
Machado last night said, he's doing this dragging and kicking and screaming.
But he did it.
One last question.
Yes, Venus. We're going to have some women here.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay, has the governor indicated that he might be supportive of this? And have you had any conversations with the captains and captainettes of industry, as you called them, I believe, to assure that they won't, to be sure that they won't up and leave the state and potentially leading to more layoffs?
We have been having, I know I have, and I believe Don has too, have been having ongoing discussions with industry, talking to people from the Silicon Valley. I convened a meeting along with Lockyer, talking about how to bring revenue in the state, and I believe that people were well aware of the situation that we're in. And again, I think it's really important that the second this budget is done, that we get to work on a real long-term solution and modernize the tax structure in California.
Let me just add to this. We went up and down the state 2 years ago asking for what do we need to make California's infrastructure start functioning consistent with the needs of our economy. And we met with everybody, Republicans and Democrats. The governor went. We sold California, and California's responded with a $43 billion financial commitment to the state. Those very same people understand that the budget is the corollary to infrastructure development. And I am fully confident that the majority of California financial leaders, corporate leaders, economic leaders, once understanding where we are, will respond the same way they did in 2006. They will be supportive.
Tom, one last. Are you open at all to the governor's notion, or something advanced by the Republicans, of perhaps temporary tax increases and some so-called budget reforms, some spending caps, that sort of thing? Is that on the table?
We're open. We've said we have not taken anything off the table except where we will do. We restored $1.8 billion in cuts because we said that is the what we call line in the sand. That's the floor of service that we stand for. Other than that, everything's open.
Thanks very much.